Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to Chef Vic Cuisine. Today we are making a sweet potato pie. Now this is an excellent dessert option for the fall season, in particular around the holidays, and a real star of this sweet potato pie recipe is the homemade meringue topping. So let's get started. So first things first, we're gonna make our pie crust. So in a large bowl, you wanna mix together 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 teaspoon of salt, and 2 teaspoons of granulated white sugar. Whisk these ingredients together until they're well combined. Now into the same bowl, you wanna add 6 tablespoons of chilled, unsalted butter, as well as 2/3 cups worth of vegetable shortening, also chilled. And now for this next step, you can use a pair of forks, or what I like to use is a pastry cutter, and you want to dice down your butter and your shortening, mixing it amongst the flour mix until the butter and the shortening are pea-sized and small. And now separately, you want to measure 3/4 cups worth of water into a measuring cup and add ice to that cup, tossing the ice in the water to chill it. And now working 2 to 3 tablespoons at a time, you want to add this chilled ice water to the mixture, stirring the mix with a rubber spatula to combine. And once all the water has been added, your dough should easily form into clumps. And once it does, you want to gently knead the dough until it comes together. And it should only be slightly sticky. I recommend using powder-free nitrile gloves if you have hot hands, as you don't want to melt the butter and the shortening in the dough. Once your dough is made, you want to form it into a ball and then cut the dough into about a 60-40 portion. And you can just eyeball this. We're going to use the 60% portion for the bottom crust, and you can store the 40% portion in the fridge for up to 5 days or in the freezer for 3 months. Which you can always use later on for another pie crust or a pastry dessert. But you want to wrap them in plastic wrap and place them in the fridge to chill for at least 2 hours while we prepare the filling. And it's easier to prepare the pie crust a day in advance when possible, so just keep that in mind when you try this recipe. Alright, let's move on to making the filling of the pie. In a medium sauce pot, you want to add in your sweet potatoes, and for this recipe you need about 1.5 pounds worth, so it's approximately 2 medium-sized sweet potatoes. And you want to cover them with water. Bring the pot to a boil and allow the potatoes to boil for about 45 to 50 minutes, or until a fork can easily pierce them. Once that time is up, you want to remove the potatoes from the water using tongs and run them under cool water. And running them under cool water will allow the skin on the sweet potatoes to easily be removed. And you want to peel them and place them into a large bowl. And to the same bowl, you want to add 1/2 cup of heavy cream, 1/4 cup of bourbon, 2/3 cup of brown sugar, 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of molasses, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract, 1/2 teaspoon of ground ginger, 1/2 teaspoon of ground nutmeg, 1/4 teaspoon of ground cloves, 1/8 teaspoon of salt, 6 tablespoons worth of unsalted butter softened to room temperature, and 1 large egg. We're also going to need 2 egg yolks for this bowl, so we're going to separate the egg yolk from the egg whites, but you want to save those egg whites later for creating our meringue. Once you add those final 2 egg yolks, you want to whisk all these ingredients together to create the filling. And I find it best to use an emulsion blender, but feel free to use a handheld mixer or even a whisk. Your goal here is to get a nice smooth consistency with this filling. Give this filling a taste test to see if you want to add any extra ingredients. I tasted mine and I felt like it wasn't sweet enough, so I added another 1/3 cup of sugar, and at that point, it was delicious. So if you want this recipe to taste really good, once you're finished stirring those ingredients, make sure you also stir in a like button too. Seriously, it helps with boosting this video's performance in YouTube's algorithm so that more people can see this recipe. And if you haven't done so already, make sure you click that subscribe button too, and also tap that bell icon to be notified when my next video drops. And stay tuned until the end of this video for a sneak peek of the recipe coming next week. Now you want to preheat your oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit or 176 degrees Celsius. You now want to take your 60% portion of the dough out of the fridge and place it onto a lightly floured working surface. Add flour to a rolling pin and gently roll the dough out into about a 12-inch diameter disc, starting from the center and rolling outwards. You also want to flip the dough after each roll to prevent it sticking to your counter or working surface, adding a bit more flour when necessary. But once your dough reaches the right size, you want to gently roll it upon your rolling pin, and this is the best way to transfer it to our pie pan. And for that, you want to grease a 9-inch by 2-inch pan with a non-stick spray or butter. And then you want to transfer your pie crust into the pan, folding any excess dough at the edges of the crust into itself to thicken the crust edge. And what I like to do to crimp the edges of the crust is take the prongs of a fork and make indentations along the outer edge of the pie crust. Now in a small bowl, you want to mix 1 egg with 1 tablespoon of milk to create your egg wash. And you want to brush the edges of your crust with that egg wash. Alright, so you want to pour your pie filling into the crust. And it should fill about 2/3 to 3/4 of the height of the pan. Place it in the oven and bake this for 55 to 60 minutes or until a toothpick can be inserted in the center and come out mostly clean. And with some TV magic, our pie is done, and we want to remove it from the oven and allow it to cool completely, which should take about 2 hours. And during the cooling process, the filling will sink into the pie. And so while it's cooling, we're gonna make our meringue. So here we want to place 2 large egg whites, 1/2 cup of granulated white sugar, and 1/4 teaspoon of cream of tartar into a heat-proof bowl. You want to place this bowl over a pot of simmering water so that the water does not touch the bottom of the bowl, thus creating a double boiler. Your goal here is to whisk this mixture constantly until the sugar dissolves, which should take about 4 minutes. And then once it dissolves, you want to remove it from the heat and add in 1/2 teaspoon of pure vanilla extract. Now let's transfer this mix into the bowl of a stand mixer and beat it on high speed using a whisk attachment until stiff peaks form. And so you're ultimately looking for a consistency like this. And now you want to spread this meringue over your cooled pie, and using a kitchen torch, you want to toast this marshmallow meringue for some amazing added flavor. And with that, your sweet potato pie is ready to be served immediately and enjoyed. And just like that, you've made a sweet potato pie right at home. This is an amazing fall time dessert. I'm sure you're all gonna love it. I can't wait for you guys to try it at home yourselves. And when you do, be sure to tag me at #ChefVicCuisine or at @ChefVicCuisine so I can see all your takes on this recipe. And a lot of people really love the meringue topping for this pie. And so if you want an even larger meringue topping, all you need to do is double the ingredients that I listed for the meringue in this recipe. As always, this recipe and many more can be found in my cookbook, Chef Vic Cuisine Volume 3, Upgrading Your Inner Chef. And that's available on Amazon, and I'll be sure to leave a link to that in my description box. And feel free to click the pop-up on your screen for more information on that as well. Thank you all so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this recipe. And if you did, make sure to smash that like button for me. It's one of the best ways to show support for this video. And if you're new to the channel, my name is Victor, and welcome to Chef Vic Cuisine. I like to create new recipes each and every week that you can make at home for yourself, your family, and your friends. So if that sounds good to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button too. And sharing is caring, so if you enjoy this recipe and think someone else will too, feel free to share this with all your family and friends. And stay tuned for next week, where I share with you all a childhood favorite of mine, my Aunt Wanda's baked bean recipe. It is so easy to make, but packs so much flavor at the same time. Well, thank you all again so much for watching. I truly hope you enjoyed this recipe. Thank you all so much for the support. Check out more recipes on my page now. YouTube thinks you'll like this recipe, so I'll see if they're right. And I'll see you next time on another episode of Chef Vic Cuisine. And until then, peace.